So I thought I'd show you some of the stuff that is happening on Sheffield Road. I'm coming out of Rotherham and I'm coming up to where the old steel piece and tozer was. British Steel Rotherham. People don't know what it was. We've done a lot of road modifications around here. And when they say they've got no money, they can waste it. I mean, what's all of this for? And while you're watching this video, tell me how many cyclists come past me. I mean, it's not an area where we're liable to get a lot of cyclists. Just on the right, you can see a biomass plant up there. And that's where the Ickles used to be, produce rail products like the wheels on trains, and now it's a biomass plant. And what energy is that actually producing? But this is absolutely out of this world, isn't it, when Rotherham say they're running over on budgets. Now I'm a bit lost here. It says Bradmarsh Business Park and I'm trying to work out where I am, so I don't recognise it. Shouldn't the priority be having a balanced service sector and industry rather than all this? Another footpath there. I mean, what's going off round here? Just realised I shouldn't really be on there, but I didn't realise that was a. I didn't realise that. So we're coming up to Fullerton Road in a minute. You can see the Riverside pub just here, but there used to be a Fullerton pub on the other side. I'm just going to cross over. I was not working where I should do, and I've just been speaking to one of the highway maintenance guys who just come to check that everything was okay. But he says that they're going to put red down somewhere for the cycles. But you can see that side's closed off at the moment. It's better than my experience last time, because I had a guy yelling at me over a year ago when I was filming where I worked at British Steel Rotherham, and he was claiming I couldn't film in a public place. I wasn't filming him, I was just filming the area. But work's progressed and you can see there's no red marker down yet for the cycle lane. I just said to the guy, I know it's your job and everything, I says, but this is all crazy. Now, when I was an apprentice, I used to walk down from Dead Man's Hole Lane to Fullerton Road for a lift from my dad. So I know this area really well. Just here where you've got Scaffold Designs was the Fullerton pub. You got Fullerton Road there. That's why that other road confused me. I thought I was actually on Fullerton Road earlier and they changed it. So there was a Fullerton pub there. It got knocked down, I think, to 2 stories at one bit or whatever, and then they knocked it down completely. London Scandinavia Metallurgical Company's up there. But this area is unrecognisable back to the 1980s. We've actually stripped our industry. Now I don't even know if D.A. Cooper there's working anymore. But how long do the businesses last in half of these units? To build them, they must get grants to build them. So it'd probably been better if I'd have filmed it from the other direction. But what I'll probably do is I'll come in again from Tinsley and walk down here into Rotherham and refilm Rotherham. But you can just see it. It's not a priority, this, at all. Absolutely zero priority. On the right hand side was the Eccles, and it's all this and the biomass plant now. So you can see a bit of a cycle thing down here, but so here you can see a biomass plant, and that bridge there, I'm sure that was where I used to cross when I was working at the Eccles. They've sort of got all steel plants around here. Not anymore. We're all up the right hand side. There's British Steel Rotherham. The way you're going to find the cyclists. I think everybody from Brinsworth's going to cycle down here into Rotherham. And we're approaching what once used to be the central workshops of British Steel Rotherham and the Phoenix 500 rooms. Now, I was all for privatising the steel industry, but not in the way that Margaret Thatcher did, where she trashed it. And one of the things is, like the Phoenix 500 room, all the companies used to have their annual general meetings there, like Sheffield Wednesday Football Club did at the Phoenix 500, and it could have been sold off as a private business and run as a private business. It would have made a lot of money. And we used to, as staff, we could go in there and actually have our meals at lunchtime, not in the Phoenix 500 but in the Phoenix rooms themselves. But all this is new. This was all steel companies around here. All up right hand side, really. Made rail products. And that all went back. I've been down the canal today, and that went right back to the canal at the back. The South Yorkshire Navigational Canal. But what I'll do is I'll come down the other direction one day as work's progressing, and you'll start to see what's happening. If you don't produce real jobs, you have to create inflation for your fake agendas, and that's why they locked us down for 3 years and people have moaned about the inflation. There's only one reason: they had to pay back all that money that they paid you not to work, or all the money for all the vaccination programme. It wasn't free, any of that. You paid for it in inflation, 10% a year. So up here was the central workshops, the Phoenix rooms, etc. around this area. It's just all been stripped out bit by bit. We should be supporting small, medium-sized businesses. All this has been cut out. Like I said, businesses move into these industrial units for a while, get a cheap rate and then clear off. And you just end up with business units empty everywhere, probably 50% utilised. Now where I live in Dinnington, I don't need to work because I've got a private pension, but you know, it'd be nice to go out and earn a little bit of extra money. And where I live, there's no jobs advertised. There's allegedly more jobs in Dinnington when the colliery was around, probably 4 times or whatever, but none of the jobs are advertised locally. I think in workshop in Dinnington at the moment, 6 jobs a day on Universal Job Search and on Indeed, probably 20 on Indeed, but most of the jobs, they're not real jobs anyway. So we've now gone from having all them like cycle lanes down there to this. What was the point? And this just gets worse, look at it. I don't know what this is. Are they going to fill this in? And it's the same on the other side. They've done exactly the same on the other side. This was a fantastic road and they just made it a complete mess. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cross sides, but I'll just show it you. I don't know what's going off. Are they filling this into pavement? That's just absolute waste of money. So this area I think was a ramp, but they've just built various different units on it. Now the best thing about here is that this place looks so much better than it used to look. Steel fault, it looks so much cleaner than I remember it back in the 80s. But there used to be an independent Temple rolling mill down here, nothing to do with British Steel. But all the ramp sort of area came down to here. And then beyond it, it became the Eccles and then Central Workshops. So when you got to a roundabout, that was the Eccles area. And then Central Workshops on the right, and then this area was the ramp. And it employed so many people, you know, probably tens of thousands at British Steel Rotherham. You know, got the parcel force. But just look at it. Have you seen any people walking up and down here or cycling on my video? And that just speaks it. Now, I'm told that at Bay or somewhere where they were putting cycle lanes in. About 100 people responded, 60 were against it, and probably 30 were for it. And Rotherham ploughed on anyway, because probably not enough would object to it. But these were big steel sheds at one bit, producing a lot of steel, and you can look at those videos, but just look at this. So I don't know if you're cycling this, you save space. You've got a big new parcel force, and I bet that's lovely to work in there. One of the problems is in the steel industry back in the 80s, we were probably a bit overmanned. I admit that, because I know what went off. But by the time I was leaving, even though I'd just come out of the apprenticeship, they wouldn't give us permanent jobs, but they were expecting us to do weekend work on our own. And what I mean is, if you'd actually fallen over or got hurt or something, there was nobody from your own team actually out there. So like, as a 20-year-old just out of my apprenticeship, they're expecting me to do something unsafe, you know, like at least I'd expect another one of my lot on plant while I were on plant, so that if I didn't turn up for a break, they might start asking questions. But the problem is, before that it was overmanned a little bit too much, and people were taking the Michael, I know. But we just went from one extreme to the other. So a company there, Stockist of Black and Bright Engineering Bar. Now I think this was where one of the small independent steel producers was with that. But I think Temple Mill might have been on that side just there. But there was also one on this side, because it was just inside British Steel Rotherham. It wasn't part of British Steel Rotherham, it was just on this corner. Now you used to be able to sneak through here onto Brinsworth Road, and they shut this one off as well. I mean, it had been working quite adequately all these years, and that got shut off. They just like to make our life harder. Could have at least been made one way. But I think they just want to make everybody's life hard. But this has been going on for, it must be 2 years, because last time I did a video down here, and they're still doing it now. So all down this side were massive steel sheds, and it'd be great if half of these businesses were producing anything, but most of them are just importing stuff into the UK. They're just warehouses. So just behind here you've got Brinsworth Strip Mill. Now that's actually mothballed, but I don't think it'll ever come out. There used to be all car parking in front of that, and then they built all these units on it. But just here was so have a think about it, laboratory, you know, really good laboratory just here. And what used to happen is, Spear was down here with these 6 electric arc furnaces where Magna is, and they used to shoot samples from over there where Magna is to over there where the laboratories were, through in chutes. I mean, this is, you know, you're talking back in the 50s and 60s. Things weren't as primitive as people make it out to be, and we had a very modern industry. Thriver bar mill, I never saw anybody on plant when I was working there. Everybody was sat in control towers. It was that efficient. And I do think when we joined the EU there was a deal made with the Germans where they keep the industry and we'd have the banking. But that's alright for those who live in the southeast of the country. The rest of us are stuck with warehouses and shopping centres and call centres. Not high-paid banking jobs. So you can see more of Brinswood Strip Mill behind here. But I just didn't realise how crazy it was down here. Ruining a perfectly decent road. It's probably dual carriageway at one bit, now it's one way in either direction. We're coming up to Magna now, where Spear was, 6 electric arc furnaces, producing top grade steel very quickly, really modern. Biggest electric arc shop in the world, or melting shop in the world, on the border of Sheffield and Rotherham. So we've got the Temple Hotel now. This was a thriving pub. I'll look at it now, it's some sort of business or flat or whatever. Let's just have a quick video of this one for me shorty. So I just cut out to do a quick shorty for the Temple pub. Talking to the guy who's just come out there, he works in there, the Vertex Access, and he said that the guy who owns it wanted to keep a little bit of history. Got hold of this. I can remember going in, it was always a bit threadbare, but it was always packed full of steelmen, end of shifts or lunch or whatever. But what a mess. You don't know whether you're on a cycle path, whether you're raised. I mean, I had a nasty accident on one of these coming into Sheffield. I'd navigated all the roads coming into Sheffield that were dangerous, the asphalt roads, and then I come onto one of their cycle paths and had a really bad injury. Split my eye open and my knees. But nobody would recognise it. And somewhere around here, if you look in the 1950s, before they actually moved this front, used to be open arc furnaces here. There used to be a row of terraces just here on an old picture. Actually, it looked as though it was part of steelworks, but then when they did the electric arc furnaces, they must have moved it out. But a lot of the stuff's still here. And it's like down at the Ickles, they used to have a fantastic medical room down there, or medical centre. I mean, I was running at that time back in the 80s, and I had a few knee injuries, and I remember going to there and they had special stuff, like 2 bags they used to put on either side of my knee, and they put heat through it. They've got all the facilities there. It's so sad walking down here, just thinking what industry we've trashed. And don't buy into the argument that industry was not productive and we couldn't compete with people abroad. They spent all that money on the banking sector back in the 1990s and unbalanced the economy to the advantage of London and the South East. So here you've got Brinswood Strip Mills. Spent a little bit of time here. I didn't particularly like Brinswood Strip Mill, but you've still got all the offices here and everything, as you can see. It says Liberty Steel, but I've worked in those offices, you know, like fixing equipment and stuff like that in the past. And some of those buildings over there, our workshop was somewhere around there. and we used to go onto the roof and sunbathe at lunchtime. Those were the days. I mean, this is all the car parking. You can't believe the number of people who used to work here. Probably far more now than all the small businesses that are here. It's just would never have been like that. Now I remember this actually was a canteen and a washroom when I was at British Steel. So when I was doing my apprenticeship just up the road, you could come down to the Greasy Spoon cafe here. I didn't particularly like it. Couldn't eat the food, but there was washrooms and everything in there. So the process control department I worked in was somewhere in there. But just look at this, we've still got all this lot either side of the road. And you can see Magna here, that was exactly where Spear was. 6 fantastic electric arc furnaces producing about 200 tonne a shift. That's when you've got 6 arc furnaces producing 200 tonnes, that's some steel making capacity. Tragic. And just here used to be a busy bus turning point, 69 bus. No comment on that one. And somewhere across here used to be a shunting wagon, and it used to shunt across the road. If I see if I can find it. So if I've got it right, so they come out of here with the shunting wagons and come across the road and out through here, I think. Probably with a molten steel or whatever. And what it makes me laugh is I'm watching people walking around in yellow jackets when there's no reason in these companies to have a yellow jacket on, and we never wore a yellow jacket. You put your safety first, like you don't expect somebody in a big shunting vehicle to stop for you. You got your sensors. It's very rare I wore an helmet either, only 50% of the time I wore an helmet. And just this building here, right on top of the roof, I can remember one sunny day it would have been like this. We're in the training centre and we actually all came and sat on top of that roof for an hour. They wanted to get us acclimatised to the heights. Things were sensible in those days. Now you put a yellow jacket on and you're safe. And that's the stupid situation the country's in. A yellow jacket doesn't make you safe. Gives you a false sense of security. There's somebody that makes a lot of money out of selling those yellow jackets and all the health and safety courses. But we're coming up to where the training centre was, Dead Man's Hole Lane. And the last time I came here it was an engineering company, I think. But we've lost the I think we've just crossed the border now from Sheffield to Rotherham. Might be a bit further up there. Sheffield's up there. So we've just crossed the border. Is Sheffield gonna bring cycle lanes down here and everything? Priorities should be decent paid jobs doing something constructive. So this road British Steel where you see all these containers, because I think the sheds came a lot longer further up here. In fact, the shed I was on top of must have been a shed that continued on from that. But sheds, you'd have the sheds, that big shed there and right up to here, and then there'd be sheds behind it as well, because there was a rolling mill behind it, and I never even saw the rolling mill. Can't believe it. I've only ever seen the rolling mill on videos later. So I'm trying to work up. There was a steel company here, I remember, but I don't know if it's still a steel company. It's a transport company now. I'm sure this was something like Cooper's up there. There are a lot of magnet companies along here that have all gone now. The LG Metals UK Limited. So you got Dead Man's Old Lane. This is where our training centre was. See the sign there, and some of these big sheds were where we trained. And I've got to admit, I went to the Rotherham to Volley Club once, and somebody must have been spiking me booze, and I was so ill, and the next day I was sick out here somewhere. Came out early at lunchtime and somewhere out here, I've got to admit my guilt, but somebody spiked my beer that night. I know it. I only had a couple of pints. But these buildings were where we did our training. Can't remember exactly which buildings. I think they might not be that building, but all these buildings were part of the training centre and behind it. I don't know what it says on here now. So there's some sort of thing on there. I don't know what that's saying. But I think there was I finished my apprenticeship in '84. I think there was only one more or 2 more years after that apprenticeships, and the thing is, you did 2 years apprenticeship on site, and then they shut the apprenticeship centre down while I was on site, and I never got a certificate to say I'd done a 4-year apprenticeship. Fantastic apprenticeship, and I've used those skills in the rest of my life, but never really used them in a work environment. So it's a bit hard to tell which of these buildings were exactly the training centre or not, but I think that one possibly was. But it's so many years, it was back in 1982 when I last didn't. I was in there. Then the next 2 years I was on the steel plant. So imagine that's over 30 years ago. So Cooper and Turner's still there, but I thought it was down there in past as well. Cooper and Turner up there, so there is still some steel being produced. So now you can see the sign for Mayoral, and out the other side of Mayoral, that connects with that. As you got up to here, it had become more of the magnet buildings, producing magnets that they stopped producing them years ago, and then a lot of the housing starts on this side. You can see a biomass plant there. To the right of it's Blackburn Meadows sewage plant, I think, still. And people remember the twin towers, 2 remaining cooling towers on the old electric generating plant, but that must have produced far more than that produces. But these were all decent sort of steel making, magnet producing companies. Now if I'm right, this was Dog and Partridge or something like that, or something and Duck. Dog and Duck it might have been. And last time I looked, it was actually a wedding place, but that's now being converted into flats by the looks of it. There always used to be an old-fashioned car outside it. Would be often I'd get off the bus at Tinsley and walk down to the training centre. So why they couldn't at least have the sign up and make it look see if there's anything more interesting down here, but cyclists are going to have a bit of a problem when they get up to here, aren't they? I can't remember what was on here, but something quite big's existed to have a car park like this. I'm going to cross over the other side of the road in a minute, try and show you from the other side. There were massive companies here that had been shut down for years producing magnets around here. This looks like a mosque to me. That's probably as far as I'm going to go on here because we're nearly out Tinsley. I might just start the video again and just show you the shops down here, because I remember Neil Warnock having a chiropody business in this row of shops around here. Let's just see what's left around here.